Hey. There we go. Okay, everybody, welcome to Monday, November 20th, zoning. How long did I do zoning? Town council. Here we go. Item 198, consideration pledge of allegiance. Yeah, we are. Pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, at the beginning of the meeting, there's always a 3-minute public comment period when anyone can speak on any subject for a few minutes if they wish. Is there anyone that wishes to speak? Okay, no one wishes to speak. We're gonna go to item 198, consideration of awarding a contract to Homestead Realty for real estate brokerage services in response to an RFP.
All right, well, as you folks know, we did put out an RFP with brokerage services, and this is in response to a new state law that requires that we use a brokerage service whenever we're selling tax acquired properties. We had one proposal received from Homestead Realty. We had a couple of representatives from Homestead tonight. We're really glad that we were able to get a proposal from a local agency that really knows the community as deeply as these folks do. Homestead, whenever we are selling a tax acquired property, will manage the process from the very beginning to the very end, and the town will realize no cost. That is, we will, under the new state law, get the taxes that are due us, plus any interest and associated costs that we might have, say like for advertising the properties. And then, of course, Homestead would get whatever its fees are, and then the buyer would get the balance of that. So right now, we have initiated foreclosure procedures on 17 properties. 2 of those have been successfully completed, and we've been able to confirm that the town does own those. Fortunately for us, they're the 2 properties with the most value. So assuming that you approve this contract tonight, we'll begin working with the town attorney immediately on moving forward with the sale of those properties, which begins with, we have to issue a 90-day notice of our intent to sell to the prior owner. And as for those other 15 properties, we'll be working with the town attorney on where we need to pick up with the processes for each one of those so that we can hopefully divest ourselves of those as well. So, as I said, we have representatives here from Homestead.
Okay, so do our honored guests from Homestead Realty have anything to say?
No, just wanted to be here, answer any questions. I'm Darren Hashi, I'm the owner of Homestead Realty.
Yep. Okay, does the board have questions?
What is the brokerage fee?
Brokerage fee will vary, sorry, depending on the property. Our policy and procedure manual allow us to go anywhere from 5 to 6% on a home, and it might be between 6 and 8% for a piece of land.
On this, that is a cost you take out of what's left. It's not something that costs the town money, correct?
Correct. Comes out of the proceeds at the closing. We're not attorneys. Obviously, the town will hire a closing attorney to prepare the paperwork and so forth. And they will do all the fees. They'll structure, take all the tax, back taxes, and your interest if you have any out of that and so forth. Yep, it comes from the proceeds.
And the intent with this is to get rid of the property as efficiently as possible, get all the town's costs covered. And, take any reasonable offer you get at that point, that covers it.
Yep,
And there's normal costs associated with land insurance for property.
Yep.
So those would come out of the actual seller's proceeds, which is not the town, it's actually the owner.
So the actual fee would be 6% of the sale?
yeah, I would say between 5 to 6% on a home, somewhere between 6 and 8 on land. And then there's no other fees because we're not property managers. So we're not gonna manage any of the properties for the town. We are
You're just selling it.
Right.
correct. Yep.
Is there a municipality break? I mean, you know, can you work on four?
Well,
I mean, we're giving everything to them. I mean, you know.
we're not realizing any of the expenses.
I understand that.
We just collect what is due us from the back taxes and the interest and any associated costs. And I actually, when I was the town manager in Belgrade, we actually had to sell a foreclosed property. And there was a little bit of burden on the staff in order to do this. This is actually makes it much more efficient for us because we just turn it over to Homestead Realty and they do all the heavy lifting.
And
So, go ahead, James.
Just get clarification, I mean, Roy just mentioned it, but are you guys gonna assess a value on it, or are you just gonna put a value on it and try to sell
Yeah, we'll do a market analysis, say, hey, we think it should be X between X and Y. Certainly, whoever the town attorney is will make the tough decisions, okay, let's go with C in the middle of the case maybe. Yeah, but we don't determine the price, the attorney will determine the price.
it? The attorney or can the board?
No, that would actually be
Or
us.
maybe Dan-
Yeah, because I feel as though, I mean, the way the market is right now, especially the interest rates are, I just want to vote.
Right.
And I feel like it's a price, because if we get our money, and not to be mean about it, but the proceeds go back to the person that defaulted on the, whatever's left over is gonna go back to them.
and if they
So I'm not
got,
really concerned about their amount of money they're gonna get back.
if they had that much interest in it, that they would have sold it.
So
It's that simple.
now, Anthony, real quick, one last quick question, more towards you. Is there any, I know there's interest accrued, taxes accrued. Is there any penalties that that have been added onto that?
No, the interest serves
Is,
as.
okay.
So I just have one quick question. In the highly unlikely event in this market that the proceeds of the sale don't cover all the expenses, will you share in the deficit? Or do you
No.
gonna take your 5 or 6% no matter what?
No, we are not, and we don't bear any ownerships, we don't enjoy any of the profits for the deficit.
Yeah, we would not sell a property that doesn't at least
Cover the cost.
cover what is
Oh,
due
it's happened in the past.
to the town. No,
Okay.
we get to make that choice though, as to
Right.
whether or not
Right.
it sells or not, and we wouldn't sell it for less than what we're owed.
And we may have to make that tough decision with some of these properties on the list.
Perhaps,
Well,
I think you're
yeah.
probably right.
Okay,
My apologies.
all right, so, Chair will entertain a motion if there isn't any more,
I'll move to approve
Question.
a
I'll second.
contract with Homestead Realty for real estate brokerage services and authorize the town manager to execute the agreement.
I'll second.
okay, we have a second, no further discussion? No. Okay, let the record show that, Elizabeth has just shown up. And we're happy to have her, and Linda's not here, are all in favor? Let the record show, are you in favor, Elizabeth?
I don't know what the issue is.
Homestead, really?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I thought
Thanks,
so.
guys, appreciate you actually taking it on.
Okay. Item 199, discussion see of efficiency main funding opportunity notice. This has an acronym of FOM. Make things just that much more interesting.
so, you're all familiar with Efficiency Maine, and right now they are running this, funding opportunity notice for towns, specifically populations between $5,000 and $10,000, if they will convert their municipal facilities to heat pumps. And in my mind, this is sort of a no-brainer opportunity because under this program, Efficiency Maine will pay 90% of the equipment and material costs to the town. Now, the town would be responsible for the remaining 10% plus the labor of actually installing these heat pumps. But it's a budget neutral proposition because we use a financing program from Efficiency Maine in which we apply the savings from the utility bills to what is owed, that 10% plus the labor. And so we're not actually out any out-of-pocket expense. It's, as I said, it's a budget neutral proposition. Obviously, heat pumps are more environmentally, what's the word I'm looking for?
Friendly.
Friendly, thank you, Roy. And they're more efficient, and so it would reduce our reliance on heating fuel, but of course, we would still maintain boilers because you would want a backup system. So the first step in this is you have to have a qualified partner do an assessment of your facilities. And fortunately, here in Winthrop, we have a qualified partner under the Efficiency Maine program, that being Dave's Heat Pumps, AKA Dave's Appliance. And so, I know Mike Ketchum has been, assessing some of our, facilities and, Mike, you may have some figures as to what the cost would be. And by the way, so we're not asking for any action tonight. We just want to make sure that before we move forward with this program, that this is something that the council is comfortable with our pursuing.
And following our established procedure, once we decide what we're gonna do, we'll put that up in our.
That's right.
So in this instance, you would not have to use an efficiency main qualified partner. So,
Right, what about Capital Electric, they're not qualified?
no, there's only one qualified partner here locally. That's
Well,
Dave's
but
Appliance.
it doesn't relieve of us. It doesn't relieve us of the necessity of going out to RFPs or other qualified
Well,
partners.
I suppose we can do that.
There are plenty of qualified partners in the state.
There.
I'm just here to give information and ask, answer any questions about about efficiency main or the equipment itself or any of the buildings in particular. So far, I've only looked at the ambulance garage.
Did you run out,
Oh,
Mike?
we all got-
I think Andy did you think?
okay.
Yeah.
You being stinky down there.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I've looked at them all, presented these last.
I've looked at the ambulance garage and the police station today. I'm hoping that, next week or the week after Thanksgiving, I can get into the, town office and possibly the public works library. And Anthony, I meant to ask you about the water district too. Is that a town building or?
It is not.
Okay, because I had quoted that last summer and I don't think that they were prepared to move, but under this new FOM, if it did qualify, they would stand to be able to take advantage of that. So I'm Mike Ketchum from Dave's Heat Pumps, Dave's Appliance. We've been partnered with Efficiency Main since the onset of the rebate program. I want to say it started in maybe 2007, 2008. We've been installing municipal heat pumps since 2004. So we're almost to the 20-year mark. We do a lot of residential and a lot of commercial properties as well. So this is well within our realm to handle. I just wanted to talk about the efficiency main program, the FONs that they put out. They do several of them throughout the year. The funding opportunity notice for this one is for municipalities, like Anthony said, between 5,000 and 10,000 residents. So what they do is they'll pay $8 per square feet for a commercial building or a municipal building. Meaning if we outfit it with heating and cooling, with refrigerant-based equipment, that they will fund either 90% of the equipment cost or $8 a square foot, whichever is less, unfortunately. Just to clarify that, Anthony, and I gave you a written proposal, which I literally just finished this afternoon, so didn't get a chance to offer numbers on the ambulance garage, but the ambulance garage would be a great litmus test for the rest of the building. One monkey wrench that was thrown in, I was looking at replacing equipment, which isn't completely necessary, but when you said that you wanted to retain the boilers as backup heating, that's not a bad idea, although it is not necessary. We can certainly leave all of that in place in the event that we need it. Also, the other thing to consider is domestic hot water. So if the domestic hot water is coming off the boiler or another water source, we can leave that in place if we continue to heat the domestic water. So the ambulance garage, basically, I looked at this, I get the square footage, the drawings, I laid out a design to take care of the problem areas for the ambulance garage. And we were able to do it by replacing the 3 condensers outside and outfitting the whole entire facility with one-way and four-way ceiling cassettes, which wouldn't, it wouldn't add a lot of duct cover all over the outside of the building. It looked very much like it belongs there. The total project cost for the ambulance garage was in the vicinity of $125,000. The $8 a square foot rebate came out to $43,912. So it would be a balance to the town of about $80,000 to convert that. What we have to look at is the annual cost of heating oil and the annual cost of maintenance and the annual cost of electricity. If we can get those documents or get those records, you can see how quickly the payback would be by heating the refrigerator rather than fuel oil. And then the bonus is the air conditioning and dehumidification, the air quality of the building improves greatly at a much lower cost than what they're currently cooling with. So I'll do a similar analysis for the rest of the buildings happily, and then you guys can make a decision if it's something you want to move forward with. I will point out that at the end of 2024, there's going to be a significant change in refrigerant. R410A is going to be phased out, and there should be a price increase, a significant price increase that's going to come with the new refrigerant. They're trying to lower the GPW, which is the weight of the gas, and the federal government just took away our sell down year at the end of 2024 into 2025, so that distribution and manufacturers can get rid of their existing inventory. That has now been taken away, so there's gonna be not only a price increase, a refrigerant change, but there's gonna be another shortage of equipment that we can expect. So there's that. So for us, the process is to go do a site visit, look at the building, square footages, listen to the needs of the occupants, and then analyze the fuel costs, electrical costs, as I mentioned, and then we'll do a calculation, sizing of the equipment, and then pricing a written proposal. That proposal would go in, if it's something the town wants to go forward with, that goes into efficiency main. They issue an approval letter to whomever, I will assume the town manager, and then you sign off on it, and then once the approval process is done, then we can begin work and order equipment and so forth. So there is some time involved, and the design process itself is pretty time consuming. So it's something, if we want to go forward with this FON, we want to do it probably sooner than later. I think March 1st is the deadline for application.
What would be involved in adding a on-demand hot water tank in there as well? So we're just gonna use the boiler to heat water, basically, is what you're saying?
Yeah, you can do that. I know the ambulance garage has an on-demand propane or kerosene fired water source. Our only offering to that is hybrid water heat. They can do a heat pump water heat system. They have those residential.
We'd be going in that direction regardless anyway, another couple of years down the road, if you could tie that in.
Yeah, it would be completely independent.
Really see that.
Okay, you need transportation.
And I would like to see that as well, just to kind of anticipate.
So you didn't have to rely on all.
Well, you don't have to rely
I
on
did
it.
add a 50-gallon hybrid to the proposal, Anthony, so you can see where that is. So they come in 65 and 80-gallon version also, and then there's commercial water heat that's also available. Mitsubishi has come into a water heating offshoot, if you will, where they're doing an outdoor unit that is strictly for domestic water on the commercial market.
I get it. All right, good. Question, and maybe Anthony and you could guys both answer this. You talk about all the buildings that the town owns, doing municipality buildings. Town hall here, is it, because it's part of the school? So how does that equate to all this? I mean, can you look at it and you're looking at it, I know you can break it out like But how does that fall under? And then I know what the
Whose
town owns, yeah,
responsibility?
yeah, and can we still, I mean, do we do this, should we add the grade school to this? And add that part of the school budget, involve them, the school board, I'm just asking this building specifically.
Yeah, and if I'm off the beam on this, Mike, please correct me, but my recollection, Jim, in looking through the program notes, is that this program is specifically for municipalities, that schools are excluded. So I think that we could install heat pumps in the offices
Okay.
that are used by the municipality, but doing the whole school, not so much.
Okay, because the town does own the building.
Yes,
Yes.
and you know that, in fact, I looked at the utility bill the other day, and so for these offices, the school is the one that's actually paying the utility bill, and that, of course, it's all the same pot of money, but.
Right. Thank you.
So does the school look at the town as like the child that won't leave the house? Living in the basement, taking a half-hour showers and stuff like that, not that I can relate to it.
I had a niece that moved in with a half-hour shower.
Not to be livid if, I just thought I'd ask the question.
I actually have a heat pump up over here. It's.
Yeah, so that,
So I haven't had a chance to talk with, Mike. Mike, do you think that the ambulance station would it be the most involved of our facilities in doing this sort of project, just because it's broken up into so many different little rooms?
No, I don't think so.
Police station.
Well, you mean price wise?
Well, perhaps, but I was just thinking sort of like complexity, yeah,
complexity, how many head units and
yeah.
versus,
There was 18 units that I put in there, and the biggest reason to do that was for individual control in all those little bedrooms, the little offices. It's probably overkill, but, and we can hold that down. This is strictly a preliminary design. But we treated each space. The ambulance garage has a big deficit in one whole quadrant of the building where there is no, the rooms overheat and overcool because the air return is out by the computer desk for one of the furnaces. There's 3 boilers in that building. And the airflow is not great in that one quadrant. So that all the supply registers are there for heating and cooling, but the return is halfway across the building out in a different area.
Yeah, and you folks will remember toward the police station with Chief Berlin, he talked about that at any given time, half the building is too hot and half the building is too cold. And I thought this was perhaps the most efficient way that we could address that situation.
Oh, yeah,
Police
there's-
station.
Yeah, because we need to address that anyway, we talked about addressing that.
Right, and so I'm gonna prepare that one next, and that one will be quite similar to the ambulance garage. The second floor, however, there's no, the ceiling above the suspended ceiling is insulated right down on top of the drop ceiling, so it might be a little tricky to get cassettes in there. Initially, we were talking about reusing the existing ductwork and replacing the air handlers with refrigerator-based air handlers. But if you're gonna leave the boilers in place, then you can't touch any of that ductwork, so we will ductless.
Yeah, and just so you folks are clear too, this is a rebate program, so we would pay the money up front, and efficiency main would rebate us the money back, but, the one time that I worked with them before, it was super easy and they were very helpful and, we got the money back pretty quickly.
They are driven to rid the state of fossil fuel, that's for sure. I'm just caught in the middle.
I just want to confirm real quick, you said 125 with the rebate comes out to about 80,000 for replacing the 3 condensers in the ambulance station, correct?
Replace all 3 condensers but the heating system stays intact.
Okay, and then did you have an estimate for the police station?
Not yet,
Not yet.
I'll have that next week.
And then you said public works, library, town office, is that gonna include fire department?
Oh, in the fire department, I knew I forgot one.
Okay. And then for the change in refrigerant in 2024, did that change anything with the equipment at all?
No, we're gonna be able to service the equipment ongoing, but it's just like when they phased out R22 and then R12. And then again, they're now gonna phase out R410A for much the same reason. It doesn't have an impact on the environment as much as the old refrigerants did, but they still, just still looking for ways to go greener. The drawback to R 454 is just like R 32, which the state legislature just allowed last year. It's flammable, it's mildly flammable, but you have to try really hard to light it, but it's. So that's where some of that price increase in equipment comes in, because we have to design around if there is a refrigerant leak.
At night.
It has to be able to sense and shut down for the smallest space that is connected to that system.
Are you gonna be making use of existing ductwork?
No, if we're gonna leave the existing furnaces in place, we're not gonna use the existing, we're gonna run ductless ceiling units throughout in the ambulance garage specifically.
Would your recommendation be at all to pull some of that? If it is, depending on the age, so you could use the ductwork and not leave the old heating system in there?
We could, but given the deficiencies of how the ductwork is routed,
Shitty.
it might, we might end up putting a lot of new equipment in and still end up with much the same result.
Okay.
So it'll be a better outcome.
Absolutely,
with-
with more control.
So, does any other board member have a comment or question? Okay,
And Andy, I have one more question for Mike. So Mike, can you speak to the maintenance needs of heat pumps versus boilers?
Yeah, the indoor units require cleaning. A lot of my competition recommends annual cleanings. But we have found in the usage such as the ambulance garage, it can be more like residential. It's low impact usage. Every 3 to 5 years, we will find that interval out after the first year. And then look toward the second year and the third year. We find that the indoor units are not gonna require a deep cleaning. We'll space that interval out, and then we'll have a scheduled maintenance that recurs every year, so they know what's coming. And then there's, we come in, take the thing apart, bag it, actually wash the coil, the drain off, pull back one of the drains and check operating temperatures and pressure.
okay, I just have two quick things. One is that you said we had about 4 months to get this completed and submitted. I don't remember the exact date you gave.
To get the application.
Yeah, to get the application.
So then we'll have to, we do by law have to have other RFPs, other people. And we'll have to move fairly quickly on this, it sounds like. And also, we also want to remember that the work that Mike does is proprietary. When we send out RFPs, each person's gonna have to do their own.
Oh, yeah,
investigating and estimating.
we will not share this information, but
Well, I didn't propose that we would, just that we should be careful not to.
yeah.
Well, it's public knowledge, I mean, we're in a public meeting,
No,
so
no, it's not.
what was just said is public.
Well, and I've just made a note to myself, because I do want to check with Efficiency Maine to find out what their process is in regards to competitive bidding for their projects. And as far as the applications go, they are notoriously easy applications. I mean, it's like 1 or 2 pages, so it's not something that's gonna take a whole lot of time and effort, I think.
I have worked with them and they are easy.
Yeah.
They really are willing to help right out there with you.
That's good, but it sounds like everyone's pretty on board.
The concern is that Mike's not going through all the troubles
Yeah.
of designing all the systems, and everybody else is just bidding on building that system.
Right,
That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
So again, yeah, I definitely want to, I made a note to contact Efficiency Maine and get some guidance from them on that.
Is there any further conversation or does Mike have anything else to add?
Good.
Okay,
You have my contact information. I'm sure all of you can.
Oh, we know where to find that.
Call the store, and if you have any questions that come up, feel free to ask away.
all right, thank you very much.
thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna move on to item 200, zoning ordinance amendment as recommended for adoption by the planning board. Okay, this is a discussion. I don't think at this time. There's a request for approval.
No, so let me just lay out the timeline here for why we have this on tonight's agenda. At the last planning board meeting, we have our vice chair from the planning board here this evening. The planning board approved this amendment to our zoning ordinance in order to allow for accessory dwelling units, which is required now under state law. Remember the talk about LD 2003. So we posted the notice to have a public hearing on this amendment on December the 4th. Now, we needed to take effect as soon after January 1st as possible in order to maintain or be in good standing with the law. And so what we're asking is that you have the public hearing on December the 4th. You approve it on first reading and waive the second reading, which has been sort of a standard operating procedure in the town of Winthrop. But we wanted to present this to you tonight so that if you have any feedback that may require us to make some tweaks or changes to the amendment, that we will know about this now so that we can incorporate those into the language and then present that to you on December the 4th. So, and Dawn is here. She'd be happy to give you a brief explanation as to what this is and why it's being proposed.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Dawn Emerson, Winthrop Town Planner. So you received some memo that had language in it, strikeouts and additions to the existing zoning ordinance. And what you're looking at is dispersed throughout the ordinance. It's not all in one section. And the purpose is to remove regulatory barriers, make it easier to produce housing in the statewide, but specifically in the town of Winthrop, it would require zoning amendments to meet the requirements of the law, and that's what we're attempting to achieve here. The requirements, I'll just give the gist of it, and if you have more specific questions afterwards, I'm happy to attempt to answer them, but the three parts are, one is to lay out an affordable housing overlay district. And essentially what that does is provides a density bonus of 2.5 times the underlying density allowance currently under the ordinance. If they provide affordable housing, there's a certain percentage of it that has to be affordable. There's definitions from the state as to what is considered affordable, what incomes people need to make to be qualified. And the state has offered that they will help us put into place a system that would, I guess, screen the applicants and then have tools in place to make sure that it stayed in place for at least 30 years. So the big piece in there is that the density allowance is 2.5 times the current allowance in the district, the underlying district. The second piece is regarding accessory dwelling units. And the minimum requirement for an accessory dwelling unit by the state requirement is 190 square feet. And the planning board had quite a lengthy discussion and decided that the maximum size, the accessory dwelling unit should not exceed the floor area of the primary dwelling unit. So you have a primary, and in fact, it is accessory, not two equal sized units. And then, so it can't exceed the primary dwelling maximum size or 1,200 square feet, whichever is less. And the thing that is specific to the state, that what makes this more flexible, partly is that there's no parking requirement and there's no density requirement. So normally, in each district, there's a certain amount of land area that you need to provide per unit, per dwelling unit. And in this instance, if there's a single family home on a lot, by right, property owner can build an accessory dwelling unit, and there's some parameters, and it's outlined in the ordinance. I'm kind of just giving you, the general requirements. But they do not need to meet the density requirement, and they do not need to provide parking. The ordinance currently calls for 2 parking spaces per unit, so they're required to have 2 for the existing dwelling. When they build an accessory dwelling unit, they may provide it. I mean, it's going to be up to the owner to work out what that looks like with their tenants, but the town's not going to regulate that, and that's mandated by the state to make it more flexible and to make these things happen. Excuse me. And in all of these instances, when we're talking about increased density, the septic
the subsurface waste disposal and the well requirements, you know, public swim water, all of that still applies regardless of the density application. So they will need to show that they can provide adequate sewage disposal and potable water. And then the third piece is regarding multifamily dwellings, and what the state says is that you essentially must allow more than one single home per lot. You can't restrict that. And you can still have an ADU with that single family. But in addition to that, if it is not in a growth district, they can have up to 2 single family dwellings. And if it is within the growth district, they can have up to 4 units. And the density provision does apply for that. But we cannot restrict it and say, currently there's a lot of single family zoning across the country. And that's not allowed in the state of Maine any longer. And so this is trying to meet that requirement. I think that's all I have for a summary, and I'm happy to try to answer some questions. And like Anthony said, the planning board chairman is here as well.
Okay, we'll go with questions from the public first. Go ahead.
Again, say minimum and maximum size of the.
Yep, the state requirement is 190 square feet. And then locally, after quite a bit of discussion, the planning board decided that it would be, it can't be greater than the floor area of the existing unit. There's gonna be an existing house and this is accessory to.
Both stories?
Yep, the floor area, yep. And, or 1,200 square feet, whichever is less. The maximum will be 1,200 square feet. So 190 to 1,200.
Any other questions from the public? Does the planning board representative want to make a few comments or?
No, particularly unless you have any specific questions.
All right, questions from the board, as far as Elizabeth.
So I just wanted some clarification on item 13, D 2B. Where it says the red line area says the village district, each additional unit requires the minimum lot size for single family dwellings. So does that mean that if a house is located on 5,000 square feet, that they need an additional 5,000 square feet to build an additional unit on that property?
I apologize, can you point me to the section?
Item 13, letter D,
Okay,
subsection 2, letter B. In the red area, so where it says the village district, each additional unit requires the minimum lot size required for single family dwellings. And the single family dwelling minimum is 5,000 square feet. So if you want to build an additional dwelling unit, even if it's a smaller unit than the one that's on the property currently, will they need to have an additional 5,000 square feet for that, just for that additional unit?
and you're talking about not an accessory dwelling unit, but
In the village district?
Yeah.
Yeah,
they would have to.
okay, all right, that was what I wanted to clarify.
Any other questions from board members? Okay, I have 2, Dawn. Number 2 on the first page, Affordable Housing Development Overlay District. Okay, it says, as designated growth area in the Windsor Comprehensive Plan, okay? That comprehensive plan is not an ordinance and really can't be enforced in the zoning ordinance. I think that if you want that portion of the plan to be enforceable, it needs to be put in the ordinance. Okay,
As opposed to by reference.
right,
Okay.
okay, that's just gonna be done.
Wait a second, let me clear the fly in the ointment here.
What?
I mean, we purposely wrote that in that way because the comp plan is going to change, I believe. So we know we're gonna have an updated plan
But
here.
that is precisely why the comp plan is not an ordinance. You cannot have an ordinance that can just alternatively change. Okay,
Well, but you can have ordinances that cite state law, and you cite the state law by statute. You cite state law because you know that there could be changes in the law, and you still want that law to apply as opposed
so
to
the
putting
law
the
says somewhere
specifics.
that we have to go along with the designated growth area
Yes.
comp plan.
Yes,
Explain
so,
that for me.
so what Don said in outlining the 3, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Don, in outlining the 3 priorities, And the affordable housing development density bonus, that occurs in the designated growth area. And the designated growth area is designated in the comprehensive plan. And so initially, the language and what you're talking about, Andy, spoke to the 2023 comprehensive plan update. And I said, well, wait a second, that plan is going to be updated itself at some future point. And so we don't want to speak to that specific document. We just want to speak to the.
Okay, we can
comprehensive plan as a
argue
whole.
about this until blue in the face, but bottom line is that you cannot use the comprehensive plan for a zoning ordinance. And if you want what's in the comprehensive plan to become part of the ordinance, then it needs to be made part of the ordinance.
But, well, wait a second.
Okay.
So Don,
You
did
won't
you,
get my vote on this unless you do that.
well, Don, did you say that states that the new state statute requires that you reference the designated growth area?
It does
That's,
require you to utilize the designated growth area.
that's beside the point. The designated growth area needs to be in the comp plan, in the ordinance.
So, and let me just reassure everyone, assuming you guys are comfortable with this, the next step is we also provide this to the town's attorney so that he can do his homework and make sure that this would pass legal muster, so that when we bring the final product to you on December the 4th for your consideration, it will have already had a legal review. So if there's something in here that is not legal under the new statute, then our attorney will be calling our attention to that.
Okay. The second question is, do we have a definition of family in our ordinance? I can't remember.
We do.
Ed? Ed's got the ordinance right there. So. Yes, we do. We do? What does it say?
It says, one or more persons occupying a premises and living in a single housekeeping unit is distinguished from a group occupying a boarding house,
Perfect,
lodging house, or hotel.
excellent. I was just concerned that definition was in there. I'm good. Thank you, Don.
And you may revisit this in the future.
Does anybody else have questions once again for Dawn? Okay, I guess we're good.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
So as I said, we will submit this to the town's attorney tomorrow and ask him to do a legal review and town to present it for a public hearing and consideration on December the 4th. And hopefully it'll win your vote that day, and then it will take effect on January.
Okay, item 201, discussion and consideration of town policy governing committee rules, responsibilities and processes. Anybody have comments?
I want to note that in the cover letter, you put roles, not rules,
Well, that wouldn't be,
it needs to stay.
although I am classic misspeller.
No, but I mean, it's two different words and two different concepts. One is rules and one is roles. So we need to clarify that it's rules and not roles.
Yeah, I think it's just a mistake in the cover letter because, you know, the three parts of the actual policy of roles, responsibilities and processes.
Roles or rules?
Roles. And so, we're not necessarily seeking approval tonight unless we happen to thread the needle just perfectly with this first draft. But, you know, we talked about having some rules as to how committees would operate moving forward. And this is I had lots of discussions with Shannon about this, and this is sort of a first draft, first run at what that might look like. So we're here seeking your input.
I, for once, like what I see.
think it's important to somewhere in here. Perhaps under the process part of it. For liaison, include that the committees which the liaison works with need to schedule their meetings that are not in conflict with town council meetings.
Excellent suggestion.
Thank you.
I thought that was one of the primary issues when we first talked about this. Once it just.
Yeah, it's not in the side, just wanted to make sure that,
Good catch,
that's a requirement.
good catch. Okay, is there any further discussion on this issue? Nothing from the public? Okay,
And if you guys want to digest this a little bit more and provide some input, just, send that to me and we'll definitely include Elizabeth's suggestion and then have you bring it back at the next meeting for consideration.
okay. Item 202, discussion and consideration of forming a village revitalization committee and approving its charge.
Yeah, and again, we're not necessarily seeking action tonight, but if we haven't just gotten it right the first time around. But this is, of course, you guys endorsed the idea of a village revitalization committee at one of your most recent meetings. And so, worked with the Kennebec Valley Council of Governments, and with the main downtown center to come up with this and try to just keep it short and sweet. So, this in conjunction with the committee rules, I think sort of gives us a good footing for moving forward with having a village committee.
So,
Okay, any
yes,
further comment, input? Go ahead, Jim.
Dawn would be probably a big part of this as well, heading up with one of the town liaison as far as this committee kind of pushing this forward and driving this.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that both the town manager and the town planner are really excited about seeing some improvements in the village.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was one of our biggest goals, and we're glad to have it on board, is when we hired a planner, is and help have the community be involved in this, but to actually have some action done versus have a lot of just talk about it. So I'd like to see some more action, so I'm very encouraged to move forward with this. I haven't looked it over everything you have here, but I will, and bring it back to the next meeting.
So I'll say this, Jim, last week, Dawn and I had a discussion with the main downtown center, and on December the 18th, they're going to make a presentation to you about a level of involvement that the town of Winthrop can have with the main downtown center. And one of the things, I mean,
What is the main downtown?
the main downtown center operates under the umbrella of the Main Development Foundation. And essentially what it does is it provides support for communities that are looking to revitalize their downtowns. And the top tier level of that, you would qualify for the Main Street America program. Now, that's a pretty high bar to get to that, because one of the things that you would have to have is a staff member who is dedicated fully to downtown revitalization. And so in talking with the main downtown center, we all agreed that they have a level of membership called a municipal membership, and it's sort of your starter level portion of the program. And, among the services that they could provide to us is not only some expertise when it comes to downtown revitalization, but if we're writing a grant application, then they would work with us on that, review our grant application before we submitted it to whatever the granting agency was. And then it's also partly networking, right? So that you are participating in these trainings and events with other communities, and you
People
get,
that have done it before.
yeah, and you get their ideas. And, Don and I went to one of their programs in Gardner, and we heard lots of cool and interesting things that Gardner has done in order to revive.
They guide you, where there's money, funds to be had to do some stuff too, like grants or anything like that.
Absolutely.
Perfect, that's,
Yeah,
that's right.
they need a lot of grants, but at the same time, I mean, we talked about two things, is one, we know that we've got to update our downtown revitalization plan, which was last written in the year 2000. But Don feels like we have a really good start on that, with what we have already, we just need to build upon that. But that's critical in order to qualify for a lot of grants, is to have a current downtown revitalization plan, so we think that this village revitalization committee will be key in helping us with that. But also, we've also talked about, okay, what's the low hanging fruit, the things that we can do straight away so that people see that there's something happening downtown. And again, the main downtown search said they know plenty of ideas that, you know, are fairly easy to do straight away so that people can see that there's progress happening with your downtown.
So do we have a specific, any kind of engagement strategy planned for this to engage all the stakeholders? I see that we have a group of them on here, which is great. Do we have any method on engaging them, or is that something that we'll develop after the revitalization committee is put together?
So it sounds like you're talking about not getting the members to begin with, but once we have them on board, as far as getting them engaged.
Yeah, for just the community in general, as far as reaching out to people, do we have an engagement strategy for how we would reach out to business owners, how we would reach out to the community to get that kind of feedback in order to get them on board or on the committee, or once they're on the committee, yeah, how do you kind of feedback are we looking to get from the community?
So I think that engagement, I'm gonna sum it up in 3 words: communication, communication, communication. I mean, we just gotta do a really good job of communicating that the community exists, what their mission is, and how the public can help them in their work.
Good.
The one thing that disturbs me just a little bit is some talk about yet another full-time employee dedicated to the downtown. That's not the cards.
No. We know that that's not the cards. That's why we say that's probably a little lofty as a goal for us. And that's why we think that this lower level program and involvement with the main downtown center is good for Winthrop. And we not only thought that, but the main downtown center thought that as well when we talked with them last week.
What role will our planner play in attending these revitalization committee meetings? In terms of like seeking out grants and things like that.
Well, I think as long as I'm the town manager, I think I and the town planner will be working together as a team to make these things happen. So I don't necessarily see the town planners being solely responsible for this. And maybe that's because I have a particular interest in seeing this happen, but I also think I have some energy that I can bring to the effort too, that will help.
But Dawn's also gonna have a good role.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if I were to sort of characterize it, Roy, it'll be a partnership.
No, I'm gonna make a motion to approve forming a village revitalization committee and its charge.
Second,
Okay, any discussion? Okay, I have a comment. I would approve this pending adoption of the rules for committees. That was the original idea, was to get this committee rules and regulations.
Why don't we adopt this? Why don't we accept this
Pending,
with that as a
Caveat.
contingency?
that works.
That they have to abide by the rules that we approve.
Yep, that works.
That way we can just get it moving.
If you folks approve this tonight, then we won't move forward on it until you approve the rules at the next meeting.
That works. That's a good idea, Roy. Okay, so Chair, we have first, second, Chair with your motions. Oh, what?
Done. Yep, Bruce and Elizabeth.
Take a vote.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that's what I'm about to do. You guys just gotta listen. You got it. All in favor? The rest, so all in favor? None opposed, one absent. Oh, thank God. Okay, 203, discussion of ambulance options led by Councilor Bruce Burns.
I think you all received an email, if not a package, when faced with the staggering costs of rechassing, and we do have an expert that is pretty knowledgeable on restoration of vehicles, that we can draw on his expertise, but looking at the cost of these things, I'd just like to draw to John's attention the options that are available as far as new ambulances as opposed to new boxes and rechassing and years to wait. And expenditure of excessive amounts of taxpayer dollars for this. These Ford and Sprint models are being integrated in ambulance services across the country. And just wanted to make sure that John was aware of these options before we make a major appropriation of taxpayer dollars to re-chassis vehicles. That's it.
Comments?
Yeah.
Questions? John?
Over here.
Yes, it's formality.
Hear you.
Is
The microphone?
microphone on? Should be.
Someone's.
Yeah. Sibilance.
First, thanks, to Council Burns for doing the research. I am indeed manufacturer of Demers Ambulance, which is a Canadian company. We're very familiar, with that company and with what they manufacture. For those of you that have been around the council, we're here then. Okay, we used to have a type 2 ambulance, that was in the fleet. A type 2 ambulance is a van ambulance, and those are typically used for non-emergency transports. They're perfect because they go from easy. However, they are not designed for emergencies because A, there's no exterior cabinetry, and B, there's minimal interior cabinetry. These are designed basically to transport patients from point A to point B, and that's in patients that are not having active patient care done. When we started looking at the ambulances, I guess I got to preface by the fact that prior to me getting in the EMS full time, I was a purchasing manager, responsible for about $11 million a year in contracts. I've been falling off ambulances for the last 38 years, 28 of those here. We've done a lot of work with regards to ambulances and costs. Keep in mind, we've got a busy ambulance service here. We're doing about 2,400 calls, serving a population of 21,000, which is equivalent to the city of Augusta. EMS is evolving, and as such, medical issues in the threat matrices that respond to continue to change. And that includes pandemics, active shooters, and the like. And unfortunately, we were involved in the Lewiston response, which taught us quite a bit. These responses require specialty equipment, in addition to the increasing amounts of medical equipment that we carry. That equipment includes things like positive air pressure respirators, disinfection materials, different brands of personal protective equipment, 2 different types of tactical vests, active shooter kits, mass casualty kits, patient movement apparatus, cardiac monitor defibrillators, $30,000 worth of reusable EMS supplies, and multiple radios. All of this equipment has specific uses, and I think we very much brushed on it during the station tour at that time. As we go forward, I'd be more than happy to bring an ambulance down and kind of go through it, just to show what we have on it. I can tell you, I'm worried that we're going to wind up towing a trailer behind the ambulance as we continue to add to the equipment that we've got to carry. Included in that, and included in the dollar figure, the cost figure when we're looking at trucks, is almost $50,000 for self-loading stretcher systems. Which is a reasonable investment. It sounds like a whole lot, but we've already paid out 2 workers' comp, back injuries, with the service, in excess of 6 figures. So, that's a reasonable investment, in our fleet. Our current ambulances incorporate 25+ major safety improvements in design. And that was as a result of the fatal ambulance crash that took place in 2006, that involved the service to our north. So we've done an awful lot of design. The ambulances are not just vehicles, they're tools in which we transport patients. In addition to carry the equipment, they provide a platform for us to actually treat our patients. Increasingly, our protocols are driving the fact that most of our treatment is done during transport. Heretofore, it was probably 50-50, where we did a lot of stuff when we were on scene. We still do things on scene, but a lot of what we're doing now, encouraging to cut down, particularly critical patients, is to cut down the time from scene to hospital. So we're doing an awful lot of stuff while we're actually bouncing down the road. Which brings me to my final point, and the final point of emphasis we have whenever I look at an ambulance is safety. Not only do we make some safety arrangements, but we have to look at providing, by design, structure, and practice, for the safety of the 1,600+ transports a year, the 1,600+ patients a year that we transport, and the EMS crews that we put in these trucks. And I'm sure that you would agree that that safety emphasis is definitely worthwhile. Costs are going to be an issue moving forward, and I really, as somebody who's bought a lot of ambulances, I bought ambulances, fire trucks, police cars, you name it. I'm not really sure where the price points on these are going. I'm not sure that they'll ever return to baseline. However, it is indicative that we definitely spend some time looking at the alternatives, and that we will do. I suggest moving forward, perhaps an area of consideration is that the council may want to look at moving excess revenues from each year that the ambulance service brings in and moves that into a vehicle replacement fund. If that were available last year, we'd have put over $200,000 into that account. In closing, I just want to thank you guys for your support. I take it to heart that you guys take some time tonight to, to talk about this issue, and to give us what we need. Rest assured, we'll leave no stone unturned when we're looking at the vehicle alternatives. And keep in mind, again, I'm not asking for any money at this point. We're not asking for funds or anything else. However, we will have to look at how we're going to structure this going forward, and we're going to have to probably rethink our entire fleet replacement schedule, and maybe even perhaps book. So again, we take the expenditure of the taxpayer fund seriously, and we'll continue to do that. So I'd invite anybody that would like, please come down to the ambulance service. I could spend a day going through ambulance design and everything else, but that's all good.
Okay, John, we have one question from the counselor here.
Sure. I just wanted to ask you, in your opinion, in the last 20 to 30 years, would you say that your equipment requirements on the transport have doubled, tripled? How have they increased?
Oh, since I started,
Yeah,
it's easily tripled and quadrupled.
okay.
We just, before you had a stretcher, you had some bandaging stuff, then we had defibrillators, and now, basically, this is an emergency room. We carry just about all of the same equipment, but they don't do emergency. So it's tough, and like I said, I'm afraid one day we're going to wind up on a trailer.
Go ahead, Roy.
Is that typical of all the other, comparable ambulance services in the area? I mean, are they all carrying all that equipment on them?
Good question. What I can tell you is one of the things that we discovered in the Lewiston response is we seem to be very much ahead of the curve as far as the equipment that we carry, particularly with regards to tactical vests and shooter kits.
Okay. The other question I had, and it goes to the, it kind of laces in with this discussion of replacing this. You touched on it briefly, is with the cost of these things, we need to get some programs in place to make these last longer. What's the typical mileages on these units? Yeah.
Yeah, it used to be, before the advent of, pure salt and calcium chloride on the roads. That equation was driven by mileage.
Yeah.
And not by age. That equation has reversed itself. And now it really has to do with, as you said, preventative maintenance and age, and not so much, to do with the mileage. I gotta tell you, one of the things is we look forward. And I think that's why I think this is really a great question. As we look forward, if we get to a point where we're talking about a public works facility or something like that in the future, we really need to have some sort of a undercarriage wash that we could utilize for town vehicles, because that would help immensely. Because what winds up happening, the box is aluminum, you know, the cab, metal, aluminum, you know, it doesn't rust. Everything else on the other side of the truck rusts out.
Yeah, I
And
guess
that's gonna be fine.
one of the suggestions, because I'm in this field somewhat. One of the suggestions I had, I briefly touched on at the last meeting, was getting some sort of deterrent sprayed underneath that, whether it be fluid film. There's a whole handful of other products out there that will significantly slow that down and give these vehicles longer lives. With the cost of them, we've got to move in that direction to get them to last.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely agreed.
What kind of mileages do they have on them?
Generally, when they replaced their, I'm trying to think, the last one was at almost 200.
5 years old-ish?
Oh, I wish,
I thought you said they were on a 5-year replacement schedule.
they're supposed to be. And we were actually moving, that was in the CIP, we were moving towards that. However, right now, it's more like accelerated.
With that mileage, with 200,000 miles.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you can average with our call volume currently, you can project that we put approximately 22 to 23,000 miles per year in each vehicle.
Yeah, and with with today's vehicles, they're a lot different than they were 20 years ago. Even, you know, proper maintenance and you can get that kind of mileage out of them fairly easy.
Yeah, absolutely, no doubt. I mean, the jury's still out a little bit because we have, in the EMS industry, and that was driven by the chassis manufacturers, we're utilizing gas engines, as we did when I first started this business a long time ago, and we're going away from the diesel engines. The diesel engines obviously gave you more life. We've been kind of watching the gas engines because nobody really knew how long they were gonna last before they blew up. Luckily, we've been fortunate, we haven't had one blow up yet.
Yeah, they're getting better.
Yeah, they're getting better. So I agree with you, yeah, and that's another part that we will look into is what can we do to increase our preventative measures.
So I have just one question. This may well turn out to be impractical, but I know that a certain portion of our business in the ambulance service is just straight transport. And is it practical to try to use, say, something like a Sprint exclusively for transport purposes? Even by one?
Yeah, ordinarily I would say yes, but at this point, given our revenue stream, and given the unpredictability of that, we've already played that game once. And when we bought the smaller van ambulance, we did that for use as non-emergency transport. And I think in 3 years, we contributed something like $900,000 to the town's bottom line because it was quite a lucrative business. Right now, the problem is with the dearth of personnel, it's getting harder and harder to find people that want to do that. You can find people that want to run emergencies. It's getting harder and harder, as some of our private service friends have found out. It's getting harder and harder to find people that want to do that. So I'm being very careful. We dip our toe into that, and we will do back drags or return transfers from Augusta to the nursing home. We will do that sometimes from the hospital to private residents if it's medically necessary. If we bring a patient into Augusta that needs to go to Portland for cardiac catheterization or something like that, then we'll stick with that. Other than that, at this point, we're being very selective about getting into that. So at this point, I would not recommend spending that amount of money to buy a truck that we may or may not use a lot. We can simply absorb those into the existing fleet.
Thank you.
And your reasoning for not doing that is strictly personnel?
That's staffing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome to the rest of the world.
Go ahead, Jim.
So based on the unit was presented to the unit that you use today for your stated equipment, not being able to outfit it with as much equipment, what is the percentages that more equipment can you get on the units you use today versus this unit now? Do you have any numbers like that?
Seeing it all laid out as it was on the apparatus bay floor when we switched over to the truck that just came back from Angry Chassis last year. And our experience with the van that we had previously, I'm gonna say 50%. It's just what you lose is you have no idea how much you lose with having no outside cabinetry. And a van ambulance, that long board compartment that you have that is big and tall and wide and everything else, you wind up trying to shove all of that equipment into a space that's about that wide underneath the food bench. And you wind up with a food bench, you don't wind up with the type of harnessed safety seat that we utilize currently.
So
Okay.
all of your EMS personnel that man your ambulances are restrained inside the vehicle while in motion?
That is the policy.
Okay, is that in fact the case? Because I'm not familiar with any state laws that said EMS providers can ride unrestrained. And from a crash safety data standpoint, unrestrained people on bench seats or restrained people on bench seats are more prone to injury. And I'm talking about the safety of not only the patient, but the provider as well.
Correct.
Carrying, space equals waste. And it's also dollars. I think if you look at the positions of these ambulances and you restock your vehicle after every run, it also increases your inventory turn. It doesn't allow things to be forgotten inside an empty cavity inside a box. So it's more ergonomic. If you're in life flight, all of your highly specialized critical care moves are from a restrained position in a bench seat or a jump seat. The way that present ambulances are situated, it doesn't always come to that benefit. I'm just questioning the amount of money, and also, this is something that all towns are going to have to touch on, because this type of technology is taking over because of the attributable costs of rechassing or new ambulances and the time delays.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
So you can go into type 2s or type 3s, and
well, that's what we
so
have
far underneath what the box is going to be. That's my point, from the taxpayer standpoint.
Absolutely, and there will come a point in which you're gonna have to pick your battles. We've anticipated that was coming since we started this conversation in 2004. It's now 2023. We're still having this conversation. We really haven't budged much at all. But you are correct. I have always said, and I still maintain, that when it comes to ambulances, we're gonna be left with no middle. You're either gonna have small ambulances or you're gonna have really big ambulances. Right now, we're still able to thread the middle, and we're right in the middle.
You did say that.
So I'm actually next.
You have
So,
another question?
yes,
All right,
So-
I get the mic on. Go ahead, Elizabeth.
regarding, thank you for letting me have that opportunity, Chair. So regarding the financing request, we gotta check with Bernice on that to see what we were allowed to do regarding setting aside profits toward a fund. I'm all for it, but I think we had an issue with that regarding the fire department.
Yeah, so, I don't want to contradict John too much, but I just want to be under budgeted revenues is the reason that we have that sort of overreach. And I have some ideas about how we might be able to rectify that moving forward.
Right, and then the second part.
And I should say, not just with the ambulance piece, but across the board, everything's.
And then the second part of what I was gonna say is, my concern about the smaller ambulances, and I expressed this concern to Bruce earlier, but I didn't bring up one other point that I was concerned with, because it's kind of a testy issue. But we, as an aging state, are in the 30 to just under 35% obesity rate according to the CDC. And we are one of 21 states in which the obesity rate has gone up in between 2021 and 2022. And it's gonna continue to climb because we are aging, and that's what happens to get older, you can't lose weight. I know. So my concern is there's not gonna be enough room in there for like the patients. And, you know, we have some big dudes that work in the ambulance, and they need to have room to get in there and move around and do their work. So like, I'm just concerned about being able to comfortably fit a patient, as we talked about the bariatric dollies, what I can't remember what it's called, gurney stretchers. And when we were at the ambulance service, I have not talked to him privately.
No, that's.
So we talked about bariatric gurneys, when we were at the ambulance service. And you need to have those available in case you get there and the person weighs 500 pounds. Cause you never know, unless you call ahead and find out.
That's why we're utilizing the power stretchers with the self-load systems.
To save
because-
people's backs.
Because they're rated to 700 pounds.
Yeah, and it's the same
And that is,
backs, yeah.
that is,
It's a
that's very
reality.
problematic.
Yeah.
Especially with only two,
And one has to drive, right?
most generally.
Yeah.
You don't want the ambulance driving down the road.
Self-driving.
Well, I don't know, maybe people get self-driving.
Self-driving ambulances may be the thing of the future.
That's the next. Okay, so are there any other questions?
I think when the time comes to make a decision, we should have one of these sprint models, available, so we can take a look at it.
I don't think
And
that's
dispel
that's
some
a
of the
good
myths.
idea.
And I'll be happy to get into the patient compartment, because, I'm a stout lad.
I'll get in there to do some work on you.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I'm
We'll
not a
show
big-
you how easy it is to work inside a small
And I'll drive
space.
like hell and see if I can hang on.
I wouldn't make a good patient because I'm.
Well, I gotta tell you, I started in van ambulances, so I'm used to working in tight spaces. If you're really sick, if you're a critical patient, I got 2 or 3 paramedics in the truck, you don't wanna be in a van ambulance. You don't. Period.
Go ahead, Jim.
So, I like your proposal, Bruce, I mean, I'd like to see it anyway, just to kind of add apples and oranges, kind of still look them over,
That's
go.
what we need to do.
Yeah, but my thought here is listening to everybody talking about it. I think we appropriated like $160,000 when we heard re-chassis,
Yeah, I think you're right.
right, around there. And if we're not gonna do it, we can set that aside for a future
Exactly.
purchase, so I think that's all good, you guys are being mindful of it, so I appreciate that, so. I think we're starting in the right direction and looking at it and looking at how we're gonna, what we're gonna purchase, but that's already a good start. Right on your chassis.
And I can tell you, we won't be doing anything this budget.
Right, yeah, I think it's smart, it's smart, and also when I was thinking, it's kind of tacked along to the Roy, and he brought up last meeting, and I'm a super believer in it, and the roads are horrendous with the chemicals they use on it, they just chew up everything. But if we could get on a schedule, even what we have today, even if we did it twice a year, I think the cost of using some of that stuff is pretty minimal.
Yeah,
To do one of those rigs, I mean, I've done them my own yard, and then he does too, but if we could find somebody that would do it, to do the undercoating, to seal them up. And it saves them a ton, I mean, I know,
I do it to my vehicle.
yeah, no, I think it's, we could get them, like I said, it may be overkill, but I think if you did it twice a year, you get it, you know, it will preserve these things and it will make them go a little further, and the motors do go a long ways, and I know getting a crate motor and just starting out one of these engines is even cheaper than buying the whole rig, so, gas job, so I just think,
Oh, yeah.
I think you're looking at it the right way, I think we need to be smart and mindful of it, so.
Yeah, and that's why I said, again, that's why I'm not here asking for any money, all I really wanted to do was raise the flag, and say, hey, look, we're not the only town, as one of you pointed out, we're not the only town dealing with this. I've been talking to service chiefs all week from all over the state. And we've all tried to come up with really creative ways to do this, and the reality is, the market is what the market is right now. So I think we may have to wait a little bit, let the market come to us a little bit.
Okay,
So there's one question from one of our citizens.
okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, hold on. Flip it. Oh, the question was, John, how many trucks are in service versus how many there are in the fleet?
More and more.
And so in service, I assume that, so at any given time, all four are ready to roll on the call?
Unless they happen to be broken down for mechanical reasons.
Okay,
How many did you have to send the list?
We sent,
Three,
we
right?
started 3, we wound up sending 2 plus myself as the supervisor. And again, I can't say enough about our folks. When our truck showed up, we were properly equipped. We had what we needed to do to go to work.
Thank you.
All right, so one last question for me. Would it be practical to set something up, John? So that as many council members as can attend can take a look at an equipped sprint type ambulance?
Yeah, let me make some calls.
Yep, no,
We'll
all right.
probably have to. I'm not gonna get one from a dealer because none of the dealers have demos right now because they are selling everything.
Yeah.
That's not tapped down. Let me see if I can talk to North Star or somebody else, see if they can bring one of their sprinters down.
Okay, good.
yeah, and let's just make sure we coordinate that, because if 4 or more of you are going to attend, we'll need to post that.
Well,
And I
first
think-
John's gotta see what he can do.
Yeah, and that might be, to be honest, that might be a springtime type thing.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's okay, but sooner the better.
That works.
That works, yeah.
Okay,
All right, so are we done with that? Can we move on?
thank you.
Thank you very much, John. All right, this next one, it should be a slam dunk, I'm hoping. I'm not quite sure how this even ended up on the agenda. Item 204, discussion of town skating rink and Millstream Trail led by council chair. Basically, the
Can't
two.
imagine how this got on the agenda.
Can't imagine. I didn't put it there and I didn't ask for it to be there. Basically, the 2010 comp plan, approved the Millstream Trail. Okay, recommended it, and during the, original beach plans, it was mentioned to Doug Beck and others, and they really liked the idea of connecting the new beach to downtown. We talked to more than a few downtown merchants when we did that plan, and they liked the idea for obvious reasons. So I'd like to see that get put back in the new comp plan, and then, as far as the skating rink, the rec committee worked long and hard to get something like that done, and it just wasn't practical with the resources we had. We have an opportunity coming up where we'll be dealing with the owners of the mill. And there are a couple ponds over there, and failing using those ponds, they're at the end of Morton Street. Failing using those ponds, there may be an area that Shannon was thinking of right at the end of the main parking lot for the medical center that we could flood. So all I'm asking is not something we have to do, but something that should be in the comp plan as a goal, because we're gonna be having discussions with the mill people, about redevelopment over there. So I'd like to see those 2 items go back in the comp plan.
So I'll just add on to that, not to dictate the location or anything, I would rather probably leave that up as maybe a feasibility assessment for the village revitalization committee once that goes into play. But to add on to with Andy, maybe in the comp plan, if we could add it under the rec and culture chapter, under the policies and strategies. I think it's listed under the recommendations 4, 5, and 6 for exploring options of the development for activities for all generations. Just including it maybe as a consideration in there, in that chapter, putting that back into that. And I think it was included, like Andy said, in the 2010, just taking a note right under those specific policy recommendations. That would be great. But I think a skating rink would be awesome for our town. And then maybe, I think again, the feasibility would have to be done and an assessment would have to be reviewed with that revitalization committee. So I'd leave that into their hands.
Used to be right down here.
Yeah, Morton Street.
There's two,
Where the tennis courts are.
we tried to put. We tried to put one in by the tennis courts, but we couldn't find enough level ground. That was the rec committee.
And we had a warm spell
Just
that
didn't-
year
It
too.
just, yeah, and it just didn't work out. The fire department worked hard to help us. But there are two ponds and an empty lot that the town owns at the end of Morton Street. Ponds are owned by, the people that own the mill, and that's a possibility. We did get to the point with that where we had to drop it because environmental testing became expensive. But if we redevelop the mill area, the environmental testing is gonna have to be done anyway. And then Shannon suggested just flooding the area where the old aerated ponds used to be. There's more lighting over there and better parking, so, it just worked out that we're talking with the mill people anyway about redevelopment and their TIF and everything, so that could be part of the conversation.
So as far as this goes, what's that? For you?
Mike.
Somebody else?
Mike.
Oh,
Mike,
I was just wondering, why can't we flood the tennis court itself?
Lonnie would probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently the water soaking into the tennis court surfaces would just destroy it when it freezes.
Yeah, very
That'd be a great
expensive.
idea, but
They used to flood that.
Yeah, they used to do it.
Yeah, but the new surfaces.
No,
are
it's getting
very
worse, they
expensive.
did do it to get it back to where.
we'll all give you permission to go try to run that one by Lonnie.
I got a hose.
All right, so all we're asking for to get this over with is a consensus to put those two items back in the comp plan.
Yes.
We good?
I was just saying, if,
Doesn't mean we have to do it, just we
I
have to look at it.
understand that, well, the skating thing is, I think it's a great idea. I think that maybe we should, the council's involvement of that, maybe just saying. Designate an area and saying, go for it, put a group together and make a skating rink. I mean, is it official business of the, is it actually official business of the town to have a skating rink?
Not
Or
at
is
this
it-
point, and it won't be, even if it goes in the comp plan. Okay, I mean, my personal train of thought was, we're gonna be negotiating with the mill people about redevelopment over there. And I had originally the agreement of the owners of the mill to give us an easement, okay, to use those ponds. We got stopped because we were held up because of the expense of testing the water and the substrate soils, okay, so we decided not to move forward with it. But any redevelopment of that entire complex is gonna require environmental testing, so that will get covered. So,
We used to put a nice arena at the end of Marina Cook Lake, but now there's too many buoys in the way, so.
oh, I'm not going there. No. Ow.
That would be
Hey,
a
I only
great
got a
place.
month left,
Thank God.
So,
I think the part of it
I
is.
just wanna just drop this. These
No,
things.
I just think, what I wanted to say is, I think it's good to consider, is absolutely could look it over. I mean, I don't know what the cost would be to make a trail. I know that's been part of it, some discussion. I think the skate rink is a great idea to have something somewhere for the community to use. I know that oftentimes it's been plowed up, by the old cement dock, and of course down by the old wings that used to do, Fred used to plow down, and every kid that wanted to go down and skate, play hockey, could down right in front of Bill Wings place. So I mean, I think we have areas to explore. I don't know how much I'm in favor of down the end of Ward Street, other than that, I don't mind your idea, but it's just the nature of, or the history of having those ponds makes me a little nervous, so, but I think that's something we should consider to have it, because I think it was always well used when it was here. So, I mean, I think we could probably come up with something, I think the community likes it.
I know there's a demand, because before I left the motel, I used to plow the cove, leave the marina lights on, and we always had people over there. It was open to the public.
Yeah.
We always had people over there
Yeah, in front
skating.
of the Legion, we did it a couple of years too, but just we gotta do it.
I think it's a great idea to do. Remind me again of the relationship between water testing and a skating rink.
Okay, those ponds were overflow ponds for the mill, okay, and all the dye and everything else. So, the issue is if someone goes through the ice or something and lands up in the muck at the bottom of that pond, and what kind of chemicals and dye are in there, I don't think it's ever been tested. So I think that before we made a escape, yeah, I don't even to come up, they'll want to come out there
We don't-
green or something, right? It looked like the monster from the Green Lagoon.
To answer that, question, all you have to do is go look at the Google Earth photo.
Does it freeze?
May not.
Or we may not use that area, but we may be able to negotiate a different area on the property, like Shannon said. So I just, I didn't want to kind of like spend all night on this. I just wanted it dropped into the plan. Okay, and in a brief conversation with Don, I found out that we probably already own some property on the mill stream. So that's a place to start. And there's just two things that are gonna go on the sort of back burner, middle burner.
Yep.
Okay, so I guess we have a consensus that that'll go in the comp plan. Both of them. All right, next. Just consideration of disbursement warrants.
And he signed it.
All
I
time.
move to approve
I
the
got-
disbursements. Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
I move to approve the disbursement warrants as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion?
yeah, quick question, you're reviewing them, Anthony, no, you're fine, it's for the process. So, just reviewing them, I noticed them. Two line items for the porta potties, are we kind of basically getting out of the business of the porta potties now that we have, it's winter?
Excuse me, yes, we're.
Don, thank you very much.
Thank you all.
So,
Thank you.
Good.
Where are those? Does it say?
yeah,
But yes, I mean, those are seasonal.
right, they are, just like, I know we just paid in October, I think was one of the dates. So, I just want to make sure that we don't continue that,
Yeah.
that on, because I know we finally got the one down. The bathroom's finally down at the transfer station, so we don't want anything down there, we definitely don't need anything down at the point, obviously. But my other question was for the aluminum boat, for the cost of what, $40,191.33, is that one of our payments for the fire boat?
It is,
Is that our first installment?
that I do not know.
The
I'll
boat's,
follow up
boat's
on
here
that.
though. It's in service.
Yes, we have received the boat, we've taken possession of the boat. I don't think it's been in the water yet.
There's a picture of
tested
it.
up there in Canada.
Oh, was it up in Canada?
That's what they.
Yeah, well, I know Chief Brooks told me that they needed to do some training on that vessel before they started putting it in service, so that everyone felt comfortable with it once it was. in the
So
water.
the picture of the water scan behind it was.
Yeah.
Chief Brooks on the water scan.
I don't ever wanna see that.
Great, thank you.
Was he in a
One
speedo?
question I have about that, the vote as well, when are we gonna do a public bid, public, sale to get rid of the old boat?
We are, so as soon as we are ready to put the new boat into service, Dan and I have already talked about this, we will be selling the old boat and using the same process we've used for the last two vehicles we got rid of.
Fabulous, good.
If I could just make a comment, I seriously recommend putting off selling the old boat until spring or early spring. You'll add 30% to the value right off the bat.
Yeah, we're in no hurry, so, and it may well be, Andy, that they're not comfortable with the new boat until the spring, since it's not an ideal time to get out on the water right now.
But that boat is, ready to go in all conditions. It can break through the ice, it can fly, it's got a helicopter on board.
Alright.
Oh, gee, Roy, you're out of luck. Okay, all in favor? The record show, all in favor? Okay, consideration of, 206, consideration of recommendations from the appointments committee.
I have no recommendations at this time.
Thank you very much. All right, other business. Okay, we have another public comment period. Nothing from the public? Okay, great. Town managers report.
I have some comments.
Okay, back up. Public comment period. Council member has comments. Go for it.
All right, one question you and I talked about, and I just wondered if you had a chance to follow up with anybody on the sand situation for this winter? Sand availability to residents?
I have not had a chance to do that yet, quite.
Okay, all right. And, also, I've had a couple, people people from I went to the transfer station on Saturday and, I was there I got the grand tour.
Were you there to
so-
haul off that Subaru?
What's that?
Were you there to haul off that
I
Subaru?
was there to haul the Subaru off as well, I think that was Friday. So some of the staff down there is concerned with some stuff that has not been taken care of.
Okay, well, they should be talking to the town manager, and so the town manager will go down there and talk to them.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering is can you please make it a point to
Yes.
get down there
Yes,
and talk to them?
So I'm tied up tomorrow, but I will, make a point to go down there on Wednesday.
Okay, all right,
They'll be open at winter.
I appreciate it. All right, that's all I had. Thanks.
Okay, anything else in the public comment period? All right, town manager's report. Oh, yeah, and I'm shooting for 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock, get this thing over with, so,
You might be faster than that.
yeah.
So just to give you a heads up, on December the 4th, our next meeting, we'll come back with a discussion of the AV needs that we discussed previously. We've had another vendor that's expert in this come and do an assessment of our spaces, and they're gonna bring a proposal, and they're willing to attend. I can't recall if it's in person or via Zoom, but they'll be here to speak with you. And then also, we will have some information to present to you just about the fees for cannabis businesses and for alcohol renewals, so.
One quick thing about that, I did notice that MMA, is it Yeah, MMA has some sort of.
A training for
Training.
cannabis
Cannabis
enforcement,
yeah.
so unfortunately, our
That may
code,
be some good questions for that.
yes. And unfortunately, our code enforcement officer wasn't available to attend that, but hopefully we'll be offering that again, because even he thought that would be useful.
There's something coming up again in December, I think.
Okay, all right.
I just got a notification the other day.
So anyway, so we'll bring that information to you, and you know, the timing of this isn't working out great, but I thought we might as well just go ahead and bring that to you, and then if you want to refer anything to the planning board, we can take something to the planning board for recommendation, but I know we're getting some pressure to move a little faster, so. Today, I spent the entire day in Skowhegan. I was participating in a road training program sponsored by the DOT's local road center. And a couple things that I think we should be pursuing is, one, I was very glad to see we do have a traffic ordinance, which is recommended for every community in the state. But what we don't have is a posted road ordinance. So in other words, when we post roads, there's no ordinance to back that up, and the DOT suggests that we do that. So that's something I'll be bringing to you guys before the spring, when it needs to post roads. Also, we have not done a local road inventory, and the reason that's important is that we get a certain amount of assistance, financial assistance from the state each year in the form of the local road assistance program to help us with capital costs related to our roads, but that's based on lane miles. And the only way that we know that we're getting credit for all the lane miles that we have is to do a local road inventory. So I spoke with the director of that center, and he's gonna come here soon, and next month, in fact, and do an inventory of our local roads. And then also the DOT has some opportunities for some free signal and speed signs, you know, so when you drive by, it tells you how fast you're driving. And particularly around some of our schools, I know that that's been a concern, so.
Those ones, are you going for the high school?
You program them so that they turn off at a certain point, so that you're not encouraging that sort of
Well,
miscreant behavior.
Too fast.
and Chief Rollins credit, he didn't waste any time responding to some concerns that were expressed by residents about
The one
speed
they, the one
in
they
certain
have,
areas.
one they have in green is really creepy because when you actually put down to the right speed, it's like a really creepy little smiley face. It's just weird.
So anyway, so the superintendent, the police chief and I have a meeting already scheduled for tomorrow, and that's gonna be the talk about speeding in some of our school zones, and that's gonna be a subject that we're gonna discuss is maybe taking advantage of some giveaways by the DOT, so. So that was a good training for me to go to. It helped me with my knowledge on road maintenance, which I'm certainly not an expert at. As you folks know, on Friday, we issued an RFP for assessing services because we had not done that in a number of years. And so we will hopefully bring something to you on the 18th of December for you to approve, assuming we get some proposals. So tomorrow morning, I will be at a KV Cog board meetings, just so you know, I won't be in the office until late in the morning. I will be off work. I had a trip planned for November 29th through December the 1st. So I'm taking some days off next week.
What were the dates on that?
It'll be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Next week.
Next week. I'm also gonna take off Thursday and Friday this week as well.
So can you and I meet the Tuesday after that? Cause I was funny thing I was gonna tell you, I have a mystery appointment tomorrow morning. I don't know if I can make it.
Okay, well, no problem. So,
So the Tuesday after.
we'll have to spend enough time together tonight.
What?
I do have.
No, never, we'll never get to spend enough time together,
Are
Anthony.
we, how is Friday for here, as, I'm not talking about you, talking about the town office.
People taking the day off personally, or is that?
No, it's a town holiday. The day after Thanksgiving is a town holiday.
The day after
The day
Thanksgiving
after Thanksgiving
is
is
a
a
town
town
holiday.
holiday.
When did that come into play?
I don't know. I inherited that.
Okay.
It follows the
Next
state,
week.
the state has,
Well, that, so we typically have the same holidays as the state, and that is a state
Yeah.
holiday.
and the schools do the same thing. So,
You wanna meet on 28th then?
Let's discuss that after the meeting. So, also, our chair and vice chair have, alerted me that it's, next month will be my 6-month anniversary, so it's in line for my evaluation, so, whether we do that on the 4th or the 18th matters not to me,
Well-
just let me know if there's anything that you want me to be prepared to
I have a
address.
plan,
Oh, okay.
okay?
I'll get the dunk tank.
Yeah, there we go. Who's bringing the baseball? So, okay, we have a plan. We would like to have, an executive session, okay, sometime, this month. Council only. And then prior to the December 4th meeting, we would like to have an executive session with Anthony. And that will give Anthony time to draw up some notes about, what his accomplishments have been and.
If you'd rather do it on the 18th, we could do an executive session on the 4th,
Yeah, because I think it's kind of squeezes an executive session here, now the 4th might be a little much.
like doing a
Yeah,
special meeting.
yeah.
I think
Okay.
it's
So,
too soon.
So on the
Holidays.
4th, if we could do an executive session for the council to discuss,
Okay,
and then,
so do you want that before or after the meeting?
before,
Okay, so start that at 6:30 or 6?
6:30.
that's fine.
We always used to start at 6 and then we'd find ourselves sitting here twiddling our thumbs.
yeah,
So at 6:30, I think is,
Present it to
Okay.
you.
Okay, so then on the 18th, we'll have an executive session, but do that at the end of the meeting.
You can do that.
yeah, and then, December 18th, we'll have the executive session with Anthony.
Yeah.
Okay,
Present that to him.
yeah,
it'll be at 6:30
And
PM
Anthony
as
can-
well.
at that point,
Well, that meeting would begin at 6. So if y'all want to do the.
let's put it in the meeting. Let's do it at 6.
Do it at 6 and then have the
What
meeting.
date?
start at
Put the
6:30.
executive session in the meeting. The meeting starts at 6.
Okay.
So we'll make the first half hour of that meeting, sit the executive session,
So the
and then do
4th,
the business meeting at the.
the 4th will start at 6:30 with the executive session, and then the 18th will start at 6 with the executive session.
Right,
Yeah,
Gotcha,
so the 4th, we'll talk as a council.
Yeah.
On the 18th, we'll present it to you. Anthony.
gotcha.
Yeah.
And we'll talk beforehand about the list of priorities that we talked over as a council, because, we went over this before. And then we'll just get some,
Is that your end of the report, Anthony?
No, I have one more thing.
Good, I have one thing too, need that.
So, Monmouth is in search of a public works director. And they have approached us to see if we might be interested in a similar arrangement with our public works director as we have with our police chief. before we get too involved in that, I want to see if that's something that the council wants to explore.
Anything
Right.
that saves us money. I'm good.
I think it's worth discussing, but we might wanna discuss it in an executive session before we discuss it in a public session.
I think we might wanna talk to Matt.
Well, Matt is interested.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it has some merit, so I think it's worth listening in,
Yeah.
just so you did with Paul. I mean, if you get the right candidate, that may be that candidate in your presentation, so I think it makes
So do
sense
we,
to share.
do we wanna do that,
resources.
have a brief executive session about that first?
Yeah, and I think it would qualify for executive session, but I wanna double check that with the attorney.
Yeah.
And the Monmouth town manager would be available to attend and participate in that discussion as
Yeah,
well.
well, that's what I'm thinking, I really can't say right now unless we were in executive session.
So,
But I do like it.
well, and I think though, one of the things that you're gonna have to consider, and it's sort of the same thing with Paul, right? When we decided we were gonna share a police chief is Paul's not gonna be with us forever, Matt's not gonna be with us forever.
Definitely.
And so we need to focus on the position versus the person
Sure.
necessarily. And it might be something that we would want to perhaps try for a year, see if it works out, and then at the end of that, we can say, oh, yeah, this works great, or you know what, I think actually this isn't a good arrangement, so there's just lots of factors to consider. So, given that, would you like that to be as part of the December 4th or December 18th meeting? That's what, let me coordinate that with the Monmouth town manager to see sort of what his discussions with his board is gonna be, and then we'll.
Yeah, I don't know how loaded up we are on the 4th right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's getting pretty busy.
Mhm.
I mean, we're gonna have.
Lots of stuff to do, Jeff.
Absolutely. You eat that elephant one bite at a time.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's holiday season and nobody's gonna want a 4-hour
So,
town council meeting, so.
and I'm sure it's on your radar, when we visited the Invesco facility, and we were talking about doing the auction on the 4th, or not the 4th, was it the 3rd, maybe, the
Third.
3rd? So, do we need to put out notice on that, or have you, or? in
Yeah.
advance of That?
That's definitely on my to-do list because I haven't had a chance to go by there and take pictures yet.
No,
so.
I understand, and I just was kind of see if we were still on target, that's all.
Yeah, thanks for the reminder. Sure.
Okay, are you done with us, Anthony?
I am.
Okay, perfect. The chair will entertain a motion to
A motion to adjourn.
adjourn if Shannon hasn't reminded me that I forgot something. Okay, all in favor? Okay, we'll adjourn by consensus, 7:50.
Look at that, 10 minutes before your vote.